So today, I really have an affordable guitar. Some of you guys might say for once. Yeah, some guitars are going to be more expensive, but there's a way to get into like that old rosewood and that old vintage sound and that old vintage look without breaking the bank. And that's what I'm all about. That's what I've always been about. Even if I had a lot of money, I don't know if I'd spend $100,000 on a guitar. Maybe I would if I had that much money. But look at this guitar. This guitar has a nice little history to it, and I'll share it with you. A little bit. This is a Fender Esquire. You guys probably know. But it's the topic for today is what makes this guitar great and affordable. Now, let's talk about Esquires in general. The Esquire is one of the first Fenders made. I think the first ones might have gone out and maybe not had truss rods in them and then come back. I don't know if they were originally made as beginner guitars or just a different model, cheaper guitar. A lot of the early Esquires were actually made, the body, when you open it up, actually was cut for like a Telecaster, but they just put the pick guard over it to cover it up. Well, my go-to guitar to compare every Esquire to is a real 1952 Esquire that's all original that I have, that I kind of parted into, buying the neck for a few $1,000s, buying the body for a couple $1,000s, and I put it together, and it's a magical sounding guitar. The original Esquires, like back in the early 50s, Fender would use oftentimes the same pickups that they used in like lap steels, and they would change the base plate on them to mount into the Fender Telecaster bridge. But they were beefy, but without being overwound or being muddy at all. A lot of them are super clear, and if you can, I know a lot of Telecaster players who will actually find old lap steel pickups and convert the base plate and turn them into like really nice Telecaster pickups. So I don't know if there's that whole theory that I think Alan Holdsworth may have had this thought for a while there, that having other pickups under the strings would change the magnetic field, which I guess theoretically it would. Whether it makes enough to make a difference is debatable. I kind of think there is a little something to that, but really more than that, I just kind of learned how to make an Esquire work for me. For my music, when I'm playing my show, I can play my melodies and my stuff with just one pickup, and it's fine because I don't really need a big variety of sounds. Just like even on my pedal board, I don't really use a lot of chorus. I don't use a lot of effects. It's pretty much my guitar, my fingers, my amplifier. Back to the Esquire. Originally, with the way they had, they would make them with the same three-way switch like the Telecasters had. They would have forward, which would normally be like the bridge position. It would be the pickup with no tone control at all. It's out of the circuit. It just bypasses the tone, the little resistor in there, and gives you like a total wide open pickup straight to the amp. And then in the middle position, you'd have that. There's two sounds right there. You could get one kind of darkened up for a little rhythm playing maybe, and then when you want to play a solo with some dirt on it, I usually have mine adjusted to where it sounds like I like it with the in the bridge position with no tone control at all. Now, in the original Esquires, I believe that in the front pickup position on the switch, they would put a little cluster of resistors to give it really kind of muffled, muted sound. And maybe there may have been a concept there like they could double on bass guitar or who knows. I found that it was pretty much unusable, that sound, so I don't, on this guitar in particular, such as a partscaster, I just put nothing there. So it's just kind of turns it off. Like I said, you might think Esquires are one-trick ponies, but because of the having the tone control on the second position, you can kind of get a nice variety of tones, and they just seem to ring really nicely. I don't know if it's the lack of the pickup, the lack of that other magnetic pull, but I like the simplicity of it. I like the look of it. In general, on my guitars when I'm playing solos, I never, unless it's a jazzy affair, unless I'm trying to play kind of beboppy or clean stuff, I very rarely use the neck pickup. I've never liked the sound of distortion with a neck pickup because it always sounds muddy. I just never went for that sound. I like the harmonic richness that the bridge pickup gives you. It would just pick up all the little harmonics your fingers do. It seemed to have a richer, higher end harmonic series that I liked. If you have a good enough amplifier, you'll find you can get a really nice mellow sounds out of one pickup just fine. It's beautiful to me. So, as for this particular guitar, now this is one you guys are going to love. I think I maybe have $300 in this guitar, and it's one of my favorite guitars to play live or in the studio. The neck, I'll start by telling you, was an all-parts neck that says license 4-fender or bi-fender that I found in a store with the comfortable D shape that all parts does. The radius on the top is pretty flat though. I have a feeling this is like maybe 10 on the top, which makes it great for bending, and I can get my action super low. It had been notched out here above the nut. Somebody had removed that little piece of wood, I guess with the intentions of doing like a locking nut thing for like a Floyd Rose at some point in its life. But there weren't any screws drilled in it yet. So I said, maybe I can whittle something down to fit, which is what I ended up doing. And it had these really goofy tuner keys on it. So, not these, but I had these other black aftermarket goofy looking cheap tuning keys. So I saw the neck and I felt it and it had potential. I could tell it had been played a lot. The back of the neck was worn down nicely and not sanded, but just worn down quite nicely. The shape was great. I could tell I could look down the neck and see that it was not warped. The frets still had plenty of life in them. So I ended up buying this neck for $100 from the store. And I had tuner keys lying around the house and bins. I have several sets of old parts. Once again, these are things I've accumulated. Took them off of other necks or got them in trades or junky guitars I'd removed the good parts from. This little notch I had to build. So I went back to the store, and he had an old rosewood bridge from an arch top. It wasn't necessarily a valuable one. And actually I think it was maybe splintered, and I saw it and I said, well, could I have that big? And I just took it home and sanded it down and made it fit. It took me half an hour to do. It's not a big deal. And I epoxied it onto the guitar, and then I kind of sanded off the edges. And I may have used a little stain pen to kind of darken it up a little bit more so you wouldn't notice that it had been replaced. But there was the neck. I got into the neck for $100. The body was sitting around just an aftermarket, but it had a bigger route, if I remember right, I think under the bridge. But I knew it would be covered up. Well, I guess you can kind of see, yeah, it'd been routed out right there, but I didn't care about that little aesthetic. The thing that I noticed is that it was a really nice sunburst, which looked kind of vintage and matte-like. It had a dark back, which I've always been attracted to guitars with dark backs like the old Les Pauls. So it was an attractive body right off the bat to me. And it was at my friend Seth Mayer, a great guitar luthier here in town, at his shop, and he had it sitting around. He said, "I'll give you $200." So I gave him $200 cash and brought the guitar. You never know. Once again, I could tell it was light, but not too light. And that's a thing too. I at one time had a Telecaster that was made out of Paulownia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Years ago, and they were so light that they just generated no tone at all. So a guitar can be too light as well as too heavy. So I don't know what kind of wood this is. I'm going to guess that it's some kind of, I don't know. I'm going to guess that's some kind of ash or alder. Can't really tell by the grain. I could tell that just right off the bat that it was around 3 pounds at least, 3.5 pounds. The binding was really super white, and that made it look a little bit too new for my taste. There's a couple of different companies in the United States where you can buy nitrocellulose spray can paints and tints. And this one I bought was a dark amber nitrocellulose spray, and I just sprayed a little bit on the binding to give it a darker, more antique-y look, which worked quite nicely, I think. The pickguard is just an aftermarket mint green pickguard that I dulled up a little bit with a little Scotch-Brite pad. And the bridge was just a Fender aftermarket bridge that I bought for $50 online, so maybe I lied about the $300. Maybe I actually have $350 in this guitar. And all the other parts I had lying around the house. So there you go. This one just came out great. It's been one of my go-to guitars. As you can hear it. It's a really sweet sounding guitar. You gotta just keep your eye out, because I'm sure in your local stores or Craigslist or wherever around where you live, you can find these deals. And look, experimenting is how you learn. Pick them up, put them together. They may sound great, they may not. It's kind of a great feeling to be beating the system. Does this compare with my 1952 Esquire? No. But I would put this one up against any custom shop that I see in stores that they're selling for $4,000 to $6,000 to $8,000, and I have like $350 into it.